evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. Can you hear me? Okay, very good. My name is Gina Duvernay. I'm the Adult Services Manager for Gwinnett County Public Library. This was one of our newest branches, and we're pretty proud of it. So thank you for coming. Yes. Thank you. We are thrilled to be partnered with Karis Books in the back. Wave, wave, wave. Yes, they are phenomenal. They're the South's oldest independent feminist bookstore located in Decatur, Georgia, and they're excellent to work with, excellent partners. And of course, they have a beautiful book back there. So if you haven't been back there, check them out. We're also honored to host this evening's featured author, Kyra Davis Lurie. Let's give her a round of applause, because why not? Yes, Kyra is the New York Times bestselling author of Just One Night, The Sophie Katz Mysteries, and her newest novel, The Great Mann. Her books have been published in 9 languages across 6 continents. Kyra was born and raised in California and currently lives in Los Angeles with her husband and their utterly perfect dog, POTUS. And tonight's moderator is Carmen Tanner Slaughter. Carmen is the vice chair of the R.T. Jones Memorial Library Board of Trustees and serves on the City of Canton's Downtown Development Authority. She is also a board member of the Broadleaf Writers Association, a recently inducted member of the Marthasville Literary Salon, and a contributing writer for Enjoy Cherokee Magazine and the Southern Literary Review. In her spare time, she is working on a hybrid novel and memoir. Let's give them both a round of applause.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Gina and Gwinnett County Public Library, for hosting us in this absolutely amazing space. When I found out that we were going to be here, I got all excited because it seems very serendipitous and perfect to be discussing this book in this space. So thank y'all for being here. How many people have already read the book? Show of hands. Okay. So for those people who have not read it, would you give them a brief synopsis of what it's about?
Yeah. West Adam Heights was LA's Beverly Hills before we had the Beverly Hills. So all the LA aristocracy lived there. Then when the 29 crash comes, if people lost their shirts, maintaining a mansion got a little expensive and they had to sell, but who had the money to buy? And the only people that had money to buy were the newly wealthy African Americans. So we had Black oil tycoons, Black hoteliers, Black business moguls, and of course, Black movie stars. And they came in, they bought up these homes, these mansions, and they dubbed the area LA's very own Sugar Hill. And my story is set there. It is a reimagining of the Great Gatsby set in the wake of World War II, where you have Charles Trammell the third, Charlie, coming from a sharecropping family in Virginia where they were in the tobacco business, and he comes out to escape Jim Crow and finds himself in a very, very, very different world that he's ever experienced before. He has not seen Black wealth to this degree, but that said, just because the wealth is there doesn't mean that the struggle is gone. So that's what the book explores in the loose framing of Fitzgerald's Gatsby-like story. So that is it.
So I want to start by asking you to just tell me briefly, when did you know you were a writer? Not necessarily when you started your publishing journey, but when did you feel that spark that you wanted to be a writer?
Okay. So I've always, even as a kid, loved writing, and I certainly loved making up stories. I mean, that's always been my thing in my head or whatever, you know. So that's been a constant. My grandmother really wanted me to be a writer. I wasn't always on board with doing what other people wanted me to do. And so I pushed that out, and I was like, you know, for a while, I'm like, well, maybe I'll write plays, right? And then it was like, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to go into acting because I loved acting, right? And I studied, you know, I mean, I was reading all these screenplays and I was like in plays, and I'm like, oh, I want to do this. And then at that time, I looked at the roles that African American women were getting and not getting. And I thought, well, I really love acting, but I'm less attracted to poverty. And so like, so maybe that's like a side hustle, right? And I got into like, I was like, I'm gonna go into fashion, right? And I got into Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, and that was my tact. And then I got married to the wrong guy. And then, and this is my current husband. And totally went on a detour, was working as a department, instead of being in New York, I was working as a department head in Nordstrom in California because I was accommodating his career. And then that blew up. It was not a good break. And it was really messy. It was so messy. And I needed an emotional escape. And I had been reading all these heavy books, right? From things, everything from Dostoevsky to the autobiography of Frederick Douglass, right?
Right.
That gets a little heavy when it feels like the whole world is coming apart, your whole personal world. So I started looking for escapist stuff, and I was having a hard time finding the story I wanted to read. So I started writing it, and there was a woman at that point, just because the divorce put me in a really bad financial situation, and I just took a job at a sports club, a tennis club, and I was saying to one of the women, I'm like, not in love with the man anymore, I'm done, but this idea of mommy, daddy, baby in one household, I'm having a hard time letting go of that. And she's like, well, it's not the end of your life, but it is the end of a dream, and all I could tell you is find new dreams. And as I kept writing, I'm like, oh, here it is. And I found myself. I mean, it was always there, this background thing. I've been keeping a journal, I think, since I was 7, but to really find myself through that writing process of writing an actual book, not a story, not something just a little, but an actual book, I found myself. I found my path. I found my dream. And I've never looked back. That book sold as part of a 3-book deal, and that started a whole new career. And now I cannot imagine doing anything else. So it was not a linear journey.
So that leads me to my next question. For those of you who may not have read any of her backlist, Kyra has written a series of mysteries as well as a series of romance novels. So to pivot from those two genres into historical fiction is sort of a big leap. What was the catalyst for diving into this new genre? And did you have history with Gatsby before? If you're solidly Gen X like me, you had to read Great Gatsby in high school, and it's either like a love-hate situation. And so was it the same for you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We all had to read Gatsby. And as I put in my look, I really enjoyed The Great Gatsby. I love The Great Gatsby. I love Fitzgerald. And I went on and I read all his stuff, right? But if you read my author's note, and even at 14, when I was initially assigned it, so many ththings that I read at 14 for school. We read Gone with the Wind too, right?
As did I.
Yeah, right? So there were certain things that let's just stick with Gatsby. So there was this one tiny little paragraph. There was I don't know that it gets much whiter than Gatsby, right? It's a very white, wealthy world, right? And it's this divide between old money and new money in the Gatsby, but it's still pretty white. And he has one tiny little paragraph where he talks about Nick is in the car with Gatsby. Nick is the protagonist in that book. They see a limo, and in the back there's 2 African Americans or 3 African Americans, and he describes them as 2 bucks and a girl, and they roll their eyes over in haughty rivalry, right? And he just thinks it's a humorous Fitzgerald is using it as a joke, right? Like, look how outrageous this place is that even Black people could be like living
Having a fun time.
in a limo, right? And it was not something that was brought up in class. You just sort of let it go. But that happened. That book was released in 1925. The massacre, the Tulsa, the Black Wall Street massacre, that was 1921. So the Black wealth was there, but it was being violently destroyed. And so the fact that, and here you have it acted like it's like this anomaly. It's not exactly an anomaly. It's just not something that people were trying to suppress and deny. And when I heard the history of West Adam Heights, and I heard about how Hattie McDaniel, who, speaking about Gone with the Wind, she was in the movie, she played Mammy. And this was a woman who made a lot of money in Hollywood. And she bought one of those mansions. And she had these huge gala events where the guest list included Clark Gable, Lena Horne, Bing Crosby, Duke Ellington was the entertainment. And I'm like, well, that's Gatsby. Right. But it's real and it's Black. And so I just married those two things. So yeah, I had that history. In terms of the pivot, I'm just in a different place in my life. It's like I've always, the Sophie books I wrote because I wanted something, the Sophie mysteries. I needed something light and fun, where I got to kill a bunch of people, and it was just a release, right? That's what I needed at that time. And now I want to do something different. And so it's really easy to be locked in a category, but we are not. No one is stagnant in their life. We have versions of ourselves. We go through versions of our lives, and this is where I'm at. And I'm so grateful that I was able to get the publishing industry to give me this chance to allow my career to grow with me, with my personal development.
I love that answer. So let's just talk about the whole concept. Of course, we all know that Gatsby is considered one of the great American novels, and it speaks to the effects of capitalism and old money, new money, who's right, who's wrong, who fits in, checking off all these boxes. So when you move the story into the post-war setting and you have all of these people who are Black people who are now business leaders and medical professionals, and of course the celebrities, it's the same type of, oh, they may have the money, but they're not good enough.
Yeah, 100%.
So you chose to explore that in The Great Mann. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
So look, I didn't make that up. There were these two communities within West Adam Heights. There was the business community, the Black business elite, and there was the Hollywood celebrities. And look, in Gatsby, it's old money and new money. In 1945, if you were Black and rich, that was new money. So that was it. But how you earned that money, that was the question. The respectability politics were alive and thriving. And so the Black business elite looked at the Black celebrities and they resented them because they felt that the roles that they were taking were demeaning and therefore impeding social progress for the entire race, right? And the Black celebrities felt like, look, just having Black presence is in and of itself progress. It's better than having white people in blackface. We're taking the roles that we can. It's incremental, but this is what we can do. And there's also, to quote Hattie McDaniel, she's like, I can make $7 a week being a maid or $700 playing a maid. So you know what? Get off my back, right? So it's like she was doing what she could. That was her position, and their position was, well, we didn't have to do that. So obviously you shouldn't have to do that either. And therefore we have a problem. So there was definitely that tension within the community. It was not entirely cohesive.
Right. I know, like in the party scene where they're discussing the merits of if you were, a light skinned, slender person, as opposed to this heavy set woman who's playing the maid in every role that she takes. Or I think at one point Dr. Somerville says something about, well, why can't you just write poetry?
Right.
Or, write a book? Why do you have to do this to make a living?
Right.
And what I found really interesting is that even though we have come many decades, I think there still is a level of that within the Black community, as far as if you went to this school or prime example, who doesn't love Denzel, right? So when he finally wins his Academy Award, it's not for playing Stephen Biko, it's not for playing this person, it's for playing a crooked drug dealing cop. And so people were really in an uproar about that. So, I mean, it's still going on within the community. And so I kept thinking of those parallels when I was reading the book and those discussions that people have and we still have. And so writing books like yours to like address those and make us have the necessary conversations that we need to have so that we can move forward in unity instead of like splintering from within.
Right.
Is that kind of like what you were trying to get across?
It's what Charlie in the book notes is that I'm gonna put it in the terms of colorism right now, but it goes into everything, right? But in the Black business community, you saw it was mostly lighter skinned Black people, and their wives were definitely lighter skinned. And what Charlie notes is like, okay, in their minds, like there is a look that is right, that this is the look you're supposed to have and present yourself this way. And this is what a dignified, educated Black person looks like. And this is what's useful. But white people have no use for you at all. Right. It's like they don't care, like, that you're dressed well and light skinned. They're not there for it. Then the dark skinned Black people, they were getting Hollywood roles because the white people were buying into the colorism to some degree, and they were trying to and like a lot of these actors, like including Hattie and Louise Beavers, they were told you need to eat more, and they still weren't. When they didn't eat enough, they patted them. They wanted to make them look as heavy as possible, right? They had an idea of like, this is going to be the completely desexualized Black woman, and we're going to make her foolish and like not very smart. And so they have a use for you. They don't have any use for them. Both of you are kind of, you're not, I want to say this without, because I know this is being streamed, so I don't want to say any bad words. I guess both of you are, I guess I could say this, I'm like, you're both screwed, right? It's like, and that's the thing. It's like, if you're going to move forward, you have to find a way, you have to find that place of unity, that common thread. Otherwise, you will be destroyed from without. That's just going to happen. And that's true now. We have to, I think, let go of some of our preconceived ideas of what intelligence looks and sounds like, and be more open to the different experiences. Coming from portraying it would be great if the powers that be recognize the Black portrayal of roles that don't fit their imagination. It's also true that playing roles that are in, whether it's like show like The Wire or something like that, that's important too. You know, there's room for both. The problem is you just have to make sure there's actually room for both, that you're not just honoring one.
And that was one of the things that I loved with the way you wrote this book, is that it did not feel as if you were writing to a particular gaze. You were telling a human story, but placing it in a framework to make people who were perhaps unaware of the things that happened there. This is like based in truth, the conflict that happens within the book and with the racial covenants that were set in place to destroy this Black community. So right now, even in this country, we are dealing with sort of this level of erasure of our history. And so I felt like you wrote it in such a way that it could enlighten and maybe educate people who would pick up, which is to me the power of really good historical fiction. Like my friend is here and she does not like historical fiction, but she read your book in like 2 days.
Oh, okay.
So that is a testament to your writing skill and the way that you made us connect with not just Charlie, but the others. But I just love the way you handle that dichotomy between Black success and still not being good enough for the outside,
Right.
but then also still not being good enough for those who are supposed to be your people.
Right. And look, I wanted this to, I mean, this is to be, you know, an entertaining, engaging story, you know, not just like something that you read because you feel like you're supposed to get this history, right? But in storytelling, if you've done well, then you can impart a lot, right? And you're right, we are definitely in a period of time where Black history is being erased. Feels like it's not a violent enough term for what's happening right now. It's like, it's just raped. It's just like it's being there is a full frontal attack on the history, and there's a lot of things that are going on right now in this country and this world that is deeply distressing to me. But you know, like for instance, I live in Los Angeles. So what they're seeing in DC, we've seen the armored vehicles going through our streets for no reason. I have friends, people who I really care about, who are immigrants, who are really, really scared right now, and I don't know how to help them. I just don't. I don't know how to save Medicaid. I have no idea, okay? But if they're going to attack Black history, that I have some tools for. That's a fight I can enter. So it's like, that's important to me. And every household where this book exists that is a part of Black history, they cannot erase. It lives. So that was important to me. And to be able to do it through storytelling without making anybody feel like I'm sending them back to school, that was key.
So I want to talk about your writing itself. It is just so lush and cinematic and textured, and because I have read your other books, I could still tell your voice was very much present in this one. But I was just amazed at how beautifully you captured the spirit of the time. So I'm going to assume that you did a lot of research, because even just the parlance and the phrasing and the dialogue and the descriptions were so vivid. There's no way that you didn't spend hours and hours of research. How did you avoid the rabbit holes, though? That's also what I want to know.
I didn't avoid them. I was like, I mean, I cut them out, but it's like, I just, look, if you write a book that's set in 1945, you got to start in 1900 because nothing happens in a vacuum, right? So you got to know the whole trajectory of each of these people's lives. So I'm really fortunate that a lot of people who lived in that neighborhood, a lot of them wrote autobiographies that were published by small press. So I read all those. A lot of them wrote for the Black, pieces for the Black newspaper, like, little columns or opinion piece. A lot of the LA papers, but also the Chicago Defender, the Crisis, and what the lawyer who represents, because as she pointed out in the book, as in was the case in real life, there were racial covenants on almost all of these homes. So their white neighbors were trying to get these people kicked out of their homes. And the lawyer who represented them, Lauren Miller, he was also a very close friend of Langston Hughes. And so Langston Hughes occasionally wrote about him, but he also, I just read a lot of Langston Hughes to kind of get a sense of that time. I went to the neighborhood. There's a lot. And you're right. There's so many rabbit holes. Oh my God, right? And there were definitely things where it's like the first draft of the book was longer, and there was like whole segments where I'm like, because I'm just getting into like all this research, and I'm like, this is actually slowing down the pacing. It's not. It has nothing to do with my story. I just I'm dying, right? And so I had to leave it on the cutting room floor. It's painful, but I know, I know I have a tendency to fall in love with research, and I'm one of those people. I have all sorts of just stupid, fascinating facts in my head that I'm constantly pulling out, right? And the thing is that when I read a book and like a thriller or something, and all of a sudden someone goes on this whole little story about the forensics or something that has nothing to do with the case, and the reader's like, why am I reading this? It's because the author fell in love with their research. Yes. I know it. So it's like, so I didn't want to do it. So again, it's not a matter of avoiding the rabbit holes. It's just not sharing those rabbit holes with the reader. And it's hard. It's hard.
But you save it, and you may be able to use it 100%. In another
100,000%. That is the plan.
And it was really your previous writing, I feel like also was so instrumental because there was the element of romance, and it was very suspenseful for historical fiction. And so I could see how having been published in those genres was an assist to make this story move. I want to see it on somebody's screen, big or small. I'm just putting that into the universe. But yes,
say the film rights have been sold, so so we can hope.
Yeah, I'm a reader, but I got in like an early copy of it, so I had the digital. But then when it was published, I needed all access to it no matter what I was doing. So I also have it on audio, and then I also have it in hardcover.
I love you. Oh my
God. I would take the long way home and just park and then sit in the car to finish a chapter because it just moves so well.
Thank you.
There was never a moment that you wanted to stop.
Oh,
it would just be like, oh, maybe I should sleep or eat or work, but beautiful.
Thank you.
So you would think you had been writing historical fiction your whole
Thank you. Wow.
career. No, seriously.
Damn.
I don't just say stuff.
Okay.
It's from the heart. So, a few weeks ago, we were both in a Zoom with, it's Vintage and Black, I think it's her. And it was several other historical fiction writers who are all Black women. And I was literally getting teary-eyed because it felt like ancestral veneration. I mean, the women were all saying the same things, but in different words about how important it is to preserve our stories, to celebrate our experiences. And I just felt, and I know there are men who write historical fiction, so no disrespect to the fellas, but it just felt so good that it was 5 or 6 of Black women writers who are dedicated, totally committed to telling our stories, because there's so many things that have happened that people aren't aware of, that aren't all, about being enslaved,
Right.
about trauma.
Right.
There's so many joyous stories. And the fact that everyone on that call were saying we're committed to showing how multifaceted, we know how multifaceted we are, but to put that out there so that people who are unaware can partake in that. And I thought you did such a great job of capturing that in your book.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. It's really important because that portion of our history is elevated because it has been purposely suppressed. The throughout history, I mean, we were all taught like, okay, there was slavery, and then Reconstruction. I mean, honestly, when I was in school, it was like, oh, Reconstruction was a mess, and then comes Jim Crow's, and then you have the Civil Rights era, and then Martin Luther King shows up, and we're fixed, right? And so the thing is that the parts where the success, Black success, the things that we've achieved, that is not taught because they worked really hard to destroy that or hide that. They had to have this narrative through history of like, these people aren't able to make it. And that's why we treat them the way that we do. That's why we have the Jim Crow laws. That's why we don't have to step in. It's them, it's not us. And so we're just doing what we're doing, right? If they allow people to see Black Wall Street, LA Sugar Hill, right? If they allow people to know that the first person to find a cure for leprosy was a Black woman in Hawaii, right? If you let that information out there, right? I mean, then it changes the narrative, and you have to start looking like, wait a minute, these people have the same, these are intellects, these are full human beings that we are not treating as full citizens. Correct. So that was hidden, and it's not really been dug up. So we need to bring that up, because this whole thing of like, you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We know all about bootstraps. Okay, like we are there, and we need to be able to tell those stories, and that the fact that even when we got there, you kept trying to take away the boots, and so I also was really gratified on that Zoom on the Vintage and Black Zoom. It's an online book club, strongly recommend, along with the Cozy Corner. Okay, like another online book group, but to that people join, because it's to hear these voices. It's important.
It really, really was. It was very emotional for me, and other people in the chat were saying the same thing. So I'll just have a couple more questions, and then I'm gonna open it up to you all. And don't sit there like you don't have questions, because half of you in this room said you read the book, so I know you have questions. But I was telling my mother on the way here, my writing mentor was Tina Ansa, who just became an ancestor almost a year ago. Next week will be the anniversary of her passing. But she used to always say to me, she calls all of her little mentees her good little schoolgirls, and she would say, now listen, the universe will give you the stories that it wants you to tell. If you don't tell them, it will give it to someone else. And one of the last things she said to me was, storytelling is our heartbeat. And I feel like you have really found your heartbeat in this genre. So I hope that you have another book in the pipeline. So that, and so this is my fun thing I like to do, because I'm nosy and I like to know what my favorite writers like.
Okay.
So I was like a big fan of James Lipton, for any of you who watch Inside the Actors Studio, Blue Note cards, whole nine. While I'm not going to do his questionnaire, I'm going to do mine.
Okay.
So number one, and I know you are a Prince fan, as am I. So what is your favorite Prince song?
Oh gosh.
Today.
Today.
Because it could change tomorrow.
Really could.
I understand
it really,
that.
Really,
so
really
for
could.
today,
yeah, I
what
like
is it?
like the one that's been like resonating with me right now is "You Got the Look," right? You know, and it's like it's just been So yeah, that's today. I mean, it like it really it keeps rotating. Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah.
3 people, living or dead, that you would like to have cocktails and dinner with.
Oh gosh. Okay. I'm gonna put Maya Angelou on that list. I really need her. You know what? I'm also gonna put Angela Davis. That would be really interesting. And let me see who else. Third person. I gotta make this good. I should try to find some diversity. Okay. You know what? I'll put on Edith Wharton. Okay. You know. Yeah. Yeah. I want to meet her. Those were some real interesting stories. So yeah. Yeah.
Very nice. Good party. Yeah. When you complete a manuscript, do you have a the end ritual?
Oh, you know, other than the
I mean,
drink.
it could be like going to
Like,
get,
I mean, like
going to get a blizzard. I don't know.
I mean, it's like, it is such a wonderful thing when you get to that end. I mean, like, you know, and particularly if you're really happy with it, right? I don't know that I have a ritual so much as it's just like it's a celebration. I mean, there have been times when it's like, you know, it's like I'm dancing around and like California Love by Tupac, like I got it. You know, it's like right. I mean, what you know, it just depends, and you hopefully have somebody to kind of share it with because it's a big deal. That's like you. It's so much work, and it's such an accomplishment even before it gets anywhere. So yeah.
Tupac is always in order.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
2 more for me. What book do you, because I always have reader envy. So those of you who haven't read The Great Mann, I'm super envious of you right now because now you get to read this wonderful book. So what is a book that you wish you could read again for the first time?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Okay, let me think on that for just one second. So I really did. I said Maya Angelou. The first book, Maya Angelou book I read was actually Heart of a Woman, and for me that was really just a revelatory experience. You know, so. I still remember, I was pretty young at the time, and I still remember reading that and just really, really being moved. So I mean, I guess that's you know it's nonfiction, but maybe that's where I would go on that one. Although there's another book by Toby Barrow, completely different, Sharp Teeth, that was completely different. It's kind of experimental fiction, but it just worked so well. And so one of those 2 books, it's one was sort of a fantasy about set with like the Latino community of where there's it's like seriously werewolves and shit. But it's like sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I said I wasn't gonna swear. But okay, so but it was a really interesting book. And then Maya Angelou. So yeah, one of those 2 or both.
And the last one, which I am kind of borrowing from him. If you could choose one word to define your legacy as an author, what would it be? You can have 2 because I like you.
You know what? No, I think I can. I'll take one. Growth. I've been doing this for a while, you know, and I'm proud of my first book, but I hope that when people read my work through, they see my growth. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, it's your turn. Yes, ma'am.
If you got to cast the movie of The Great Mann, Who would play Charlie? Who would you make Charlie?
Charlie. Okay, well that's a good one. Okay, because there's certain people I can't say, but Charlie I can. And you're gonna, don't at me because I don't know the name. But if anyone saw Sinners, the guy who played the lead role, the boy, or he wasn't really a boy, it was a young man.
The singer?
Yeah, the singer. Yeah, I want him. I really, but like honestly, he's in demand, period, right now. But that's like he was a find. That was Coogler's find. I would love to have him play Charlie. So yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yes.
So, I read the book in 2 days. That was great. There was a really lighthearted element I want you to talk a little bit about, if you would. And it's when Charlie first sees this world that he doesn't know exists, when they're riding in the car, when he gets to the house, the party scene. And it, on a human level, is if you grew up kind of on the poor side, you had that experience where you're like, what? People live like this?
Yeah.
Can you, like, and it was so cinematic and you could see him there. Did you draw on any of your own experiences for that? Like, how did you capture that so wonderfully?
It's really interesting because it is true. Coming to LA, there were times when I was exposed to a kind of like stupid wealth, right? Like that's like where you're just like, what, right? And I mean, there was, I knew this, like I knew this guy, and I found out later there had been this whole expose article written because he had known someone and then got caught up in like there was these burglaries and robberies and he had been one of the targets, right? And it was like, and they stole a $10,000 comforter, like on the bed. And my first thought was, well, that's on you. Okay, like, I was like, if you have you spent $10,000 comforter, you deserve to lose that. Okay, like, it's like, I'm just like, there's just sometimes where it's like, what are we doing here? And you just look and you're like, what is this? And so there's definitely that. And I didn't grow up poor. I grew up, I don't know. I mean, everybody says they're middle class. And I guess, okay, so I should say that I don't consider myself having grown up poor. It is true that my mother, like, I know there was a period of time where she did welfare. I know when I was really young. I know, like, when I was pushed in the stroller while she was selling Avon, right, door to door, right, but, and then she put herself through grad school and ta-da, not that we were ever rich, but we moved to middle class, right? And my grandparents helped a lot. They also had, like, my grandfather built our house, right? And himself, not like, so it's like, so I didn't come from poverty. I just certainly wasn't like, there was never a point where we didn't have food or enough, like, or like clothes or, and worry about things like that. But still, there's a level of excess in certain places that is stunning. And I can absolutely imagine if you come from even less, I mean, again, sharecropping, that was real, and they made sure you were in debt. It wasn't just that you weren't making money, you were constantly, they made you indentured servants, and then to come from that to Hattie McDaniel with her maid in full, like, formal dress, and she's wearing the mink and the diamonds. And it's not just her. It's one thing if it's an individual, it's a community of this, right? And I will say this, is that when I was 8, my mom took me to a trip to, and we went to Kenya, and and then we went to Nairobi, and I remember in Nairobi, there were all of these Black men in suits, like these businessmen, and I had never seen like so many Black men in like formal business attire, and I still remember that. I mean, I was barely 8, you know, and that is totally in my mind. So seeing that kind of success in that color, the first time you see it, it is revelatory, and it does, and it does have an effect on you. It's really, it's something we should. I mean, so there's a positive on that too, you know. So
It was just, through seeing it through his eyes, you really capture what you just described. That's why I wondered where you found it.
I think we have time for one more. We'll do one more right here. Yes, ma'am.
So I loved Anna. She was my favorite character. And I could not, it's been a while since I read Gatsby, even though I have some pretty extensive positive experiences with having Gatsby. I was a high school teacher for a long time, in total. But I couldn't remember a real equivalent to Anna in Gatsby, so I felt like she was really yours. Is that the case?
yeah, I mean, look, I did in Gatsby. There's Jordan, but the thing about The Great Gatsby is Fitzgerald's protagonist is not his main character. The main character is Gatsby, right? Nick is just there as the reader's eyes and ears. And so the only relationship of Nick's that we care about is his relationship to Gatsby. I didn't do that. Charlie is my protagonist. He is my main character, right? You know, and so that means that all his relationships are important. So my version of Jordan has to be a whole person. And Fitzgerald didn't give her much, like, so she was very much mine, and I had read about Hattie McDaniel had a publicist, Ruby, I want to think Ruby Goodwin, and she was this Black woman. And I thought, okay, I didn't want to do her because I wanted to have more freedom than that, but that seemed like a really good jumping off point, and I really created her, so yeah.
I loved what you did with her, and I felt like the way you embodied the way Black women take care of everybody, and the way she was the stabilizing figure for the entire narrative, just felt refreshing and real and true for just sort of a Black feminist narrative. So
Thank you. And that's my girl. So
yeah. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you all for coming out. I know you want to get your books signed, and we want to make sure you have enough time to do that. So give just a couple of minutes.
Yes, let's give. I wanted to say thank you so much.
Oh.